What up, potty people, and welcome back to Clipped. I'm Eric, your host, and Clipped is a podcast that brings you podcast production tips, education, industry insights to help you start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Pumped to be back here with you for episode 43. Shout out to you guys for listening, for all the support. The show is definitely growing. Pumped for this episode because today I'm talking about narrowing down your podcast topic, getting specific so you know exactly who you're talking to, so you can niche down on that and find your ideal listener. I'm going to give you 10 reasons why niching down your podcast can be beneficial. And before we get into it, is it niche? Is it niche? I used to say niche. Now I say niche. Who gives a fuck? But I would like to know, actually. I'm going to say it how I'm going to say it, but shoot me a message. Is it niche or niche, or does it not matter? Here's 10 reasons why niching down your podcast is going to be super beneficial for long-term success, long-term growth, and long-term community building, finding those ideal listeners, finding those fans that you can speak to directly without getting too broad. So number one, clear target audience. Focusing on a niche topic allows you to better understand and cater to the needs and interests of a specific group of people. This is also going to help you create content more easily, and that content is going to resonate with that audience. And that's how you build that community and that loyalty. For instance, let's say you're doing a podcast about dogs. Well, that's too broad. I would say to do a show about a specific breed of dog. That way you're really honing in and finding those people that like love labs or love pit bulls or love Maltese. I have a Maltese. He's 13. He's chilling right here while I record. But you're going to be speaking directly to a group of people. And yes, sometimes, you know, the episodes or the overall podcast might like veer into like general dog territory. And that's okay. I mean, naturally, as time goes on and as you keep cranking out episodes, you're gonna touch base on other things within that ecosystem, but it all should be geared and focused on that one theme. In this case, if it's a dog podcast about a specific breed, that's where you want to go. Number two, so less competition. So a narrower podcast is going to help you stand out in a big market. Again, if it's about dogs, that's huge. Thousands of breeds of dogs, probably, and you're just focusing on one. And so it's going to reduce like the direct competition with like searches and ranking too, because there's probably people searching various keywords about like dogs in general. But when we really hone down on Maltese or lab or pit bull, it's going to be easy to establish yourself as kind of like the authority, the expert, the go-to guy or girl or they or them, whatever the hell, in that niche. I like to think of it as being like a big fish in a small pond. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. No shade on that. Recommend you go for something like that. Number three, expertise and authority, which I touched on a little bit, but niching down allows you to develop an in-depth knowledge and expertise in a specific area. This is going to help you build credibility and become that go-to person. People that listen to podcasts, typically it's because the content is good, but they also enjoy the host and they want to learn from that person and they want to be led by that person. And when they can look to you as the person in their world that they're into and whatever their hobby, their passion, it's just going to create more engagement and more long-term success. Number four, easier content creation. Focusing on a specific niche can streamline the content creation process. Let's say it's a show about fishing. Fishing's too broad. Is it deep sea fishing? Is it bass fishing? Is it fly fishing? Once you know exactly what it is, you can make content that appeals to those people that are into that specific subject matter. You're going to have an easier idea of topics to explore. Let's say it's like fly fishing. Well, you could talk about all the various rivers in Montana, Wyoming, Utah. You could talk about how to tie flies, why fish are attracted to flies, how to tie flies. That's a better idea for a show than a show that's about fishing. And one week you have on like a deep sea fishing expert, or you talk about like tuna fishing, or the next week you talk about like bass fishing and those tournaments that you see on ESPN and the lake fishing. It's easier to create content when you know exactly who you're talking to. It's going to help with templates too. A lot of podcast, social media creation, and content creation is based off like using templates and similar types of images and messaging. And once you know what you're doing, you can pump that out quicker and be more specific. Save time, really. That's all about saving time in that world, because you could easily get into the weeds with content creation. So having a system, having a focus is going to just reap dividends for you in the future. Number 5, better monetization opportunities. A niche podcast often attracts a dedicated audience that is highly interested in the subject. Not to beat a dead horse, but that's what I've been saying. This can make it more appealing to sponsors and advertisers, because advertising is all about demographics. They want to focus on a specific group of people, maybe even a specific age of people. So the more targeted you are with your podcast, the easier it is going to be for advertisers to come in and partner with you, because they know exactly who you're talking to, and they want to talk to those same people. Okay, number 6, networking and collaboration. A niche focus can make it easier to connect with other influencers, experts, and enthusiasts. Again, if someone is like a deep sea fishing enthusiast, they're not really going to be interested in connecting with you if you're a fly fisherman. Whereas if you're a fly fisherman and your podcast is about fly fishing, you're going to have an easier time reaching people. Sure, people that fish are probably a little bit interested in all of it, and maybe even dabble in all of it. But to get those diehards and those real connections, you're going to have something of interest that bonds you together. It can lead to valuable opportunities in the future, collaborations, maybe guest appearances. Of course, guesting on a podcast, you want it to be the person that books you obviously is reaching out to you because you're talking about something that the podcast they're booking for is talking about. So those cross promotion opportunities are going to be huge when you have that clear focus. Number 7, loyalty. When you provide valuable, in-depth content, you're more likely to foster a sense of loyalty among your listeners. They're going to appreciate that you keep talking to them. You're not veering off and talking about other shit. Number 8, easier searchability. I kind of touched on this earlier, but with a niche podcast, it's more likely that your podcast will show up in search results for your specific topic. That big fish in a small pond, let's just say for sake of conversation that there's 1 million people searching for dogs a month, and there's maybe only 5,000 searching for Maltese. Well, it's going to be easier to stand out in that crowd of 5,000 as opposed to 1 million. Going to be better for SEO, going to be better for people finding you and discovering you. It's going to be easier for discoverability. Number 9, faster growth. By catering to a specific audience, you can often achieve faster growth as your target market is more likely to share your content with like-minded individuals who are also interested in that topic. That goes along with like building community. Think of it as like you love a specific band. Let's say you love Guns N' Roses, and you have another friend over here who loves rock music and digs some Guns N' Roses songs. Like, you're going to connect with them. But if you have another friend who like loves Guns N' Roses and you're always going to the concerts and you know all the albums and all the lyrics, obviously you're going to develop a better bond with the diehard fan, and you're going to connect with other people like that. And constantly sharing that information and speaking, and those fans speaking from a place of passion, that just spreads like wildfire. Which leads into number 10, passion and sustainability. If you choose a niche topic that you're truly passionate about, you're going to be more likely to enjoy creating content and staying motivated over the long term, because you're going to be connecting with those diehard fans, those diehard Guns N' Roses fans. You're going to be speaking to them. You guys are probably going to be DMing, talking about concerts, talking about the next album. If Axl, I don't even think he's in the band, but Slash's guitar riffs and all things Guns N' Roses. So you're just going to attract those people, and that passion is contagious for listeners and for you as a host connecting with listeners. So that's it for me today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. And just wanted to mention here, if you're digging the show, you're loving the content, liking the content, connect with me on Instagram. That's at the Podcast Haven on Instagram, putting up videos from the show there, snippets, clips. Would love to chat with you guys. Would love to learn about where you're at in your podcast journey and how I may be able to help you achieve some of your podcasting goals. Or if you're just a newbie, hey, reach out. Got some questions, looking to get started in the podcast world, hit me up. That's at the Podcast Haven on Instagram. Slide in. Let's make it happen. Let's build this together, guys. And I will see you next week.